Hello again, this is the 13th century schizoid man with another video. Now what happens when the king dies, the next heir dies of dysentery just 3 years later, and the only heir to the throne now is a 12-year-old boy called Louis. Well, his mother had plans. She was Blanche of Castille. Let's get stuck in. Now Blanche was born in Valencia in Spain in 1188. Now, even at the earliest age, she was known famously for her good looks, and along with her sister. Although we're not going into her sister. This is all about Blanche or Blanca de Castille, I think she was known as in her actual native Spanish. But she's historically known under a French name, Blanche of Castille. Blanche de Castille. Now, not rabbiting on too much, she first enters the history books where she's married to Louis of France, the Dauphin of France, aka the heir to the throne of France, the son of King Philip. Now, he marries, he's only about 13 when he marries his 12-year-old girl, and even then she's known for her beauty. Roll on 5 years later, she's had her first child. And she's well versed in all the classics. She loves her Latin. She loves reading all the books that was meant to be for Louis, but she ends up reading them anyway. And she becomes a very learned woman. Now, Blanche's influence really kicks off on the King John's death. Yes, that John. His death. Because she's the granddaughter of Henry II. And as we all know by previous videos, that on King John's death, well, in the Barons' War, we invited the French over to rule as king. This means that Blanche and Louis become the rulers of England, but anything but the coronation. When John dies, we betray the French and put the 9-year-old boy Henry on the throne. Blanche is having none of this. Now Blanche, as I said, is the granddaughter of Henry II. She has a legitimate claim to the throne of England. She's going to be a queen in all but name, and she's determined to get the throne. So Philip of France isn't. He wants none of this. But you tell that to Louis, who is very under the thumb. He invades. Blanche enables this. He invades, and as we know, this leads to the battles of Lincoln and London, where, again, see other videos. Even though these battles did not go in her favour, she's going to learn that if you want something done, you've got to do it yourself. Don't send Louis. Don't send any other people under you. You're going to have to grab the bull by the horns and go to war yourself. So now when Louis comes with his tail between his legs back into France, he pretty much gets a wigging from Philip he pretty much gets a wigging from Philip and gets a bit of a slap. He's like, well, don't do it again. And they will do it again. But as I said earlier, this is all about when a king dies and the heir dies. Now this will happen just a few years later when Philip of France dies. Louis inherits the throne along with Blanche of Castille. But Louis himself, the Dauphin, doesn't live that long, and he'll die just 3 years later of dysentery. As I say, what can he do? And this allows her 12-year-old son to become king. Blanche crowns him immediately, well, within a month, which is pretty good going for the medieval age. So, and this prince, now king, has inherited a war-torn France, because France was not unified. They pretty much just had Spain, Normandy, a load of war-torn areas, with a civil war breaking out all around it. People joining all different factions. So her main adversary was a nobleman called Montclerc. Now, whether or not he wanted the throne for himself, whether or not he wanted to just play kingmaker, that's not what I'm on about. We're on about the fact that he was the prime target of Blanche's wrath, may we say, because she's about to take him down in a really harsh way. Not only does she get the one of her daughters to marry into the Montclerc's family, but she makes alliances with other powerful nobles just to whittle away his power. And she gets Frederick of Flanders out of prison just as an ally, just to fight Montclerc. Twice she raises armies to beat, and twice she defeats him. And now Blanche isn't just one of these women who stays back and hires these generals to do her bidding, not in the slightest. She is leading from the front. She is on the battlefield. She's doing chores. She's mucking in with the men, and she's doing basic chores just to just to keep the war machine rolling. So, which is why she's under my badasses of women, because she is nothing like Nicola de la Haye, who was a siege mistress. She's a seasoned warrior. She even raises an army, goes against Henry III, because Henry III does his invasions into France, and she crushes him again and again. There's reasons why England do not have French territories, and there's reasons why Henry of Winchester, aka Henry III, isn't making any gains in France. It's because Blanche of Castille is taking him again and again and again. She's even got power elsewhere, because time and time again Henry is trying to get wives, but Blanche bats them down. She either has to marry other men, or gets the Pope to step in. Yes. If anyone's going to play her, it's going to be Joan Collins, isn't it? She's like a modern day Cersei, at least. So it's the I say modern day because I am 13th century. I am the Schizoid man. Yeah. So you now have the Blanche of Castille slapping Montclerc and all his cronies all around the country. She's winning this. She's going to unify France. Eventually, this will end in the Treaty of Paris, or Treaty of Paris. And she will win her war. She will get her day. She will win. Now, with the Treaty of Paris, lots of lands get changed in hands. So you might end up with a nobleman who has lots of lands in Normandy. Well, he's now changing those to French lands. Someone in England might have Norman lands. Let's change them for English lands. This and that. This has a huge change in power. Simon de Montfort will get hurt by this. Simon de Montfort will end up losing a lot of his lands in Paris, France, Normandy. Simon de Montfort will lose his lands in Normandy. So this pretty much ends the Algie Benison? That one. You know what one it is. I'm going to put it at the bottom. You know what one it is. The Algie Benison. I can never pronounce it. I can never ever pronounce it. So it's that crusade ends. Now, she'll always be at war with her other enemies. There'll always be trouble and strife in France. Now, by now she's old, she's frail, she's no longer the spring chicken she was when she was fighting. People like now with Henry the now when it comes down to people like Henry III, she just gets marriages involved, and she even gets Guy de Lusignan out of the war. So Henry can't really continue it. So Henry has a huge following that starts pettering out as it continues until it's just a damn squib squabbling over land. Blanche was highly influential, like I said, in battle and in court. Now, eventually, like the Montclercs, they're defeated. they're no longer a part of the scheme. But this frail old woman eventually concedes, and because there's the Seventh Crusade approaching, she wants none of it. She does not want her beloved and precious only son. This son, who's now a king in his own right, she's ruled as regent. People don't see this as, oh, she's just Louis the king had all the power. No, he was a 12-year-old boy, slowly growing up. The queen was regent in her own right, and she was not going to let it go. Eventually, when the king starts to make his own decisions, she doesn't like it, and he'll end up going on a crusade. He won't die in this crusade, but eventually Blanche will have to admit, when she's about 68 years old, that she's had enough. She falls ill, and within a few days, has died. So she went out as quickly as she came. There we have it. But I do suggest checking her out. There are books on Blanche of Castille. She's one of the most powerful characters in the 13th century, the early 13th century to the mid 13th century. She's a very influential character. I've just given you a basic snippet, a basic idea of what she's like. I'm not here to rap it all day about Blanche of Castille, just to give you a snippet of what her life was like a camera shot in time. So, with that, is the 13th century schizoid man, ending the video, over and out. Take it away.
What?